Welcome, all you beautiful people out there, to the Switch4Good podcast. I'm your host, Dotsie Bausch, along with my lovely co-host, Alexandra Paul.
Hi, Dotsie.
Hello. Okay, guys, got something to talk about. Miss Thing over here, as I've mentioned many times on the podcast, is a BADASS in the animal rights movement. And she had a wild and hairy and what I would consider also scary scenario that took place about 2 weeks ago. And I am not even going to start to dive into what it was because you need to tell the story.
We'll see what happens, Dotsie, when we take off 2 weeks from our podcast.
I know.
I can just go travel and get...
I can't let you out.
So, yeah. Well, firstly, several things. Firstly, it was the Animal Liberation Conference up in Berkeley, and I taught a training of open rescue and farm investigation, which is a 6-hour training.
I was going to say, I remember you saying, I was going to tell everyone this was 6 hours that you taught.
Yeah, exactly. I had a co-teacher, Eva Hamer, and it was great. It went really well for about 150 new activists who hadn't gone through the training yet, who are interested in open rescue, which is, as you probably know, but our listeners might not, is rescuing animals from factory farms without hiding your face and and publicizing the video later.
Is it legal or not legal to do that?
It is morally legal, but right now the laws are iffy about whether it's legal or not legal in California, because there is a law about the ability to rescue an animal if it doesn't have access to food and water or if it's in need of medical care. You can go in. Just like when you can smash a window for a car in a car to save an animal in a hot car. There's an argument for being able to go into a farm when an animal's in distress and help the animal.
But it's not actually legal because they are considered property?
Animals are considered property, so it actually has not been tested in the court of law, as far as I know. So hopefully, animal activists can get so far as to get it tested in the court of law to see if factory farm animals, as you know, are not protected. So very, very few laws.
Right.
So at the end of the Animal Liberation Conference, there were about 650 activists who protested at a duck farm where undercover whistleblower footage had been already sent out to officials in Sonoma County saying, there are animals that are not being taken care of. Please come at least look at these farms. And officials ignored these. I think there were at least 30 attempts with different officials to try and get them to investigate.
So this is a duck farm. Is this foie gras or is just meat?
Just
duck?
a regular duck farm. Yeah, with overcrowding and debeaking. And so at this protest, I, along with 79 other activists, was arrested for peacefully demonstrating at the farm and trespassing. And I spent a couple days in jail with about 70 of my fellow activists up in Sonoma County. And we're awaiting charges. So originally they were felony, conspiracy, and misdemeanor trespass. So we'll see.
Okay. Yes, you are one of the most on top of things in your life person that I know. And I emailed Alexandra a few Mondays ago and didn't hear anything back, which was quite rare. But I thought, well, maybe she's just, actually has other things to do in her life besides deal with me. So I waited patiently. And then she writes back, I think it was Wednesday, sorry, Dotsie, I've been in the clink for a few nights. I was like, excuse me? And so I called you and I said, oh my gosh, I had 800 questions. But one of them was about, you must be exhausted because you didn't get any sleep. And you said to me, oh no, I slept quite well. I like a hard bed, so it was fine. And I'm like, it really wasn't about the mattress is what I was, it was about everything else, like you're in jail.
Well,
was it smelly? Did you eat? Were you scared?
Well, actually, I didn't eat for 30 hours, which is hard for me because I tend to like to eat a lot, often.
You didn't have any potatoes?
I didn't have my potatoes. We didn't, but only because the prison was not able to accommodate vegans. So none of us 70 odd activists ate for 30 hours. And I was actually okay about it, maybe because of the newness of what was going on and but I was not alone in a cell. I was grateful for that because several activists were, and I think I would have had a hard time if I was alone in the cell. And it was very much, and it actually made me so, and I've been actually in jail before several times for other issues, but
relating to
actually environmental and peace issues.
Okay, we need to make that clear.
All peaceful things. So anyway, so what did I do? I get out of jail. I start driving home to L.A. that night, and I stop at Whole Foods and get a pint of ice cream and eat it on the way.
No!
That was what I
broke
my fast with. So,
it's okay.
But actually, they tried to feed us a little bit, but I hardly ate anything because it. Good for them for trying.
Yeah. You deserved it. And I know you're back to your Whole Foods now.
That's right, exactly.
Your potatoes.
So.
Okay.
Anyway, but we have a great guest today, and she's a really good friend of yours. So please tell us all about her.
Okay. So our guest today is certainly living proof that you can rise above even the most oppressive of situations. Born into a world of strife, she found herself being passed from family to family in Boston's inner city foster care system at the age of 14. Taken out of her home by the Department of Social Services, she wound up at a girls' home in Chelsea, Massachusetts, where she was rotated with 6 other girls. And this is her words. Everyone would want babies, but not a 14-year-old teenager. Girls would come and go, some would run away or find other placements. It was a really fearful, dark, and turbulent time in my life. Upon aging out of the system, she took matters into her own hands and became a model, making a life for herself in Boston. At 21, she made the bold decision to move to Los Angeles and transition into acting, and through perseverance, she made it. You might recognize her for her roles in Mother's Day and Star Trek Into Darkness. But she caught our attention through her work in animal advocacy and health promotion. She has a YouTube channel, which now has been picked up by Amazon Prime, that is dedicated to interviewing plant-based doctors, through which she discovered the healing power of a whole foods plant-based diet. Fun fact, she's also an aerial skills artist, quite literally raising above the challenges she has faced in life. Sorry for the pun. I had to. So please join me, everyone, in welcoming the beautiful Inside and Out Gianna Simone to the Switch4Good podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on this show.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with both of you.
I saw you in the Louis Zamperini story, the sequel.
Yes.
And you played his sister.
Yes.
And you were really, really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah, I highly recommend that everybody check out Unbroken Path to Redemption. It's an incredible, inspirational story about PTSD and overcoming intense, awful abuse. So I didn't go through exactly what he went through, but I relate to his story a lot with PTSD from abuse and that trauma and overcoming that trauma through becoming a Christian. And forgiveness, the power of forgiveness in that movie you have to see it. I mean, you saw it, and forgiveness is so huge in moving on with your life and healing personally.
Mm-hmm. Gianna, I want to go back to the darkness so we can come forward to the light, right? Because I just mentioned a few things that I'm sure that people's jaws are still dropped open in hearing, because you are one tough cookie, my sister.
Thank you.
Wow. So I read somewhere that you said most nights you slept with a knife and a phone right nearby. Mm-hmm. Take us back there. Let's start there. I know you suffered abuse, and we're not going to go too deep into that, except that it was from your family. But take us back to that time.
So I grew up in a very physically and emotionally abusive setting at home, and my parents were divorced, and my dad wasn't around, and he wasn't aware of what was going on, and it was almost daily where I was physically abused and thrown out and had to stay with friends and had to fight back, and I would constantly work out. And in my teens, I found a friend who owned a gym. Her name was Kathy DeMarco, and she would give me a free membership to the gym. So rather than becoming a drug addict or becoming a prostitute or hurting myself in any way. I found going to the gym and becoming stronger physically and emotionally was what I needed to survive. So I became obsessed with going to the gym. Like I would skip school, and I just wanted to become physically tough to be able to defend myself and fight back, and mentally too, and emotionally too. So I did that for a long time, and then I fought back, and there was one pretty bad night where I was being dragged around by my ankles and smashed into walls and doorways, and I lost a tooth. My face was being kicked in, and I ran away, and I had a probation officer at the time. My family took what's called a CHINS out on me. It stands for Child in Need of Service, and so when you get that taken out on you, you get assigned a probation officer. And so my probation officer loved me. She's like, you're getting straight A's in school. You're a lovely kid. Like you're really strong. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just in an abusive situation. So we need to get you out.
So, how old are you at this point?
I was like 13 at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was my whole life that I was physically and emotionally abused and kicked out. And it was...
I mean, since you were a baby, like when do you first remember?
Oh, from like 3 years old.
Oh, okay.
Like first memories. But it's okay. Like, talking about this and sharing my story, because I have forgiven, and I have been healed. I truly feel like I've been healed, and God has healed me, my mind, my body, my spirit, my soul. And I don't just say that because it sounds fluffy. It's really the truth. And it's powerful. I feel like I'm talking about a movie. I don't feel like, sometimes I'll get emotional, but I don't feel like it's me anymore. But anyway, but I know that it is. It's hard to explain. But they did take me out of my home, and I began my journey into the foster care system. So I was 13 or 14 at this time, and people would, like you said in the intro, people would just want babies. And I would sleep in bunk beds that were made for like a 5-year-old. And I would be tossed around from home to home because people just wouldn't want me. And so I finally ended up in a girls' home with about 6 other girls. And yeah, these girls were seriously tough cookies. One had a slice from her lip to her ear because she got into a knife fight, and there was a big scar on her cheek. And I mean, these were tough girls. It was kind of like being in jail. So I was working out at this gym so this woman, Kathy, who owned the gym, she would come to court every couple of months when she found out that I was being placed into foster care, because I would skip school and I would spend like 13 hours at the gym just working out. She would take me to this small non-denominational Christian church, and we would go in, and it was probably like about 20 people, and people were, raising their hands in prayer and worship, and I was like, these people are nuts. Like, they're crazy. And I just remember judging them and not understanding, and I kept going back after she passed away, and I eventually was one of those people raising their hands in prayer and worship, and I got saved, and I became a Christian. That's really when my life turned around, and I understood that I am so loved, and I am so valued and valuable to Jesus, and what Jesus did for us. And that I'm forgiven for my mistakes and my mess ups, and that I can, because I'm forgiven, I can forgive others. And so the journey to forgiving others really healed my insides, really healed my soul, really healed my mind.
Quick, yes. I want to know that you speak about becoming a Christian as it was almost a moment in time.
For sure.
And then do you remember, and if so, can you describe what that felt like, what that looked like, your senses during what it tasted like? Well, what was that like? Like, I want to know that transformational, epic hour.
Yeah.
Because not very many people have gone through that, or maybe many people have, but
yeah.
It's fascinating.
It is pretty fascinating. It wasn't like no glitter fell down from the sky or anything like that. It was a very real moment, and a moment more of human connection when the pastor's wife prayed with me, and I gave her my hands, and she gave me this prayer to kind of repeat after her because I didn't know what to say. And so she kind of guided me through a prayer, and I I listened to her and repeated it in truth and honesty, because I knew I needed help. I knew I needed God. and I couldn't rely on my own understanding or my own strength. And so I felt that she really cared, and that she was guiding me to an incredible, loving presence. And I felt that through her. And I think that's how God speaks to us, through each other and through his creations, and our ability to understand and feel those connections and love, and even through animals, and even through flowers and trees and his beautiful creations, and our ability to understand that and see it and accept it. So that's kind of how it felt like. And then it was a progression. You know, I still swore. I still did things that, like, I still was a sinner. I still am, you know, like I still mess up. I just try not to as much. And I really try my best to do the right thing once I know the right thing. And I hold myself accountable to that. So it was a progression. It just wasn't like, oh yeah, great, I'm perfect now.
No, of course not. Great. Yeah, there was a moment. You said there that you couldn't rely on your own strength.
Yeah.
And was that because you had been relying on your own strength, but you hadn't felt completely loved doing that? You were just surviving, not thriving? Is that?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That I wasn't, we can't just love ourselves. We can't just sit back and be like, yeah, okay, I love myself. The world's going to be great now. You get lonely. We're relational beings. We need to love others and feel loved by others. I think that's the greatest feeling in this life, is to have love, to give love, to receive love. And the worst feeling is to lose it. Whether through death or losing a pet or a friendship that was severed, or it's the greatest thing we'll ever encounter in this life, and the most important is love. And God is love. Jesus is love. He was love in human form, and his actions prove that.
It sounds like what was especially meaningful for you was that feeling loved and having meaning.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have that as a child from your family. So that was something that really gave you the confidence to become a model and to move out to LA.
Yeah. Modeling was my path, and it was my path to get to acting. So when they would reject me, they would say, well, you should act instead. So I was like, I'm not acting, I'm modeling. And then when I became successful in modeling, I ironically fell in true love with acting. And people would say, you know, when you model, you kind of can turn it on and off in front of the camera, and you have this gift of taking on these characters. And I think what makes a good actor or actress is life experiences. And to say the least, I've had a lot of life experiences. And not only did it help with my acting, my life experiences, it really, really taught me who I am and who I want to be. And it gave me the courage to be that person and to be myself, and to really have a close relationship with God and feel like I am walking in line with what I feel like is my purpose. And there's no feeling like that. It is one of the best, most thrilling feelings I've ever experienced in my life, other than falling in love with my soulmate.
That's part of your purpose too, though, right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So then you came to LA.
Yes. So then I moved to LA at 21, and I developed acne. And this made me, as an actress, you can't have acne on screen. I mean, I guess you can, but...
Well, now with digital, it's much harder to hide. It used to be, I had acne in my 20s, or just not very good skin. And with video, it's much harder to hide than film, which it was back in the 80s. It was easier to hide, but with video, digital, it's impossible.
Yep. Yeah. So I did a lot. I was always starving myself. I struggled with bulimia. I struggled with not really anorexia, because I wasn't skinny when I would starve myself. Like even when I was bulimic, I wasn't skinny. I'm skinnier now.
Is not what you look like, but what's happening up here.
Right,
the psychology of it. So you were anorexic.
Why do you think you were bulimic? What was going on there?
I think because of modeling, and I wanted to stay skinny. And it was a path to do that. And I loved eating. So I would rather eat and throw it up rather than starve myself and not eat because I was so hungry. And then I'm sure it was a control thing. I'm sure it was something in my life that I had control over. And I was like, and I actually was struggling with bulimia in foster care. And I would go down to the local library, because I had like a Nextel phone. I had like a flip phone and no smartphones. So in order for me to access help, I had to go to the library with my library card and wait in line and wait for the computer. And I would do searches on how to heal bulimia. And because I had nobody to talk to, I didn't want to be put in an institution. My foster sisters, I had fake nails all the time. And these 2 nails would always come off because of the acid. And so my caseworker would ask me, and I was at the point where I was just throwing up without having to stick my fingers down my throat. And I was like, this needs to stop. Like, I'm probably going to lose my teeth. My gums were deteriorating, and I'm not skinny, and this is not healthy. I need help. But I couldn't tell anybody because I just didn't want to be put into a hospital and land in another place to live. So I did research and I healed myself, and with God's help and guidance to go down to the library and have the capacity and the belief in myself that I could do this, and I looked things up online and I did it and I stopped.
And when you stopped, did you find? I found that after a while, just like any kind of addiction, the reason you do it in the first place, which might be for you to be able to eat and maintain your weight, and for me it was the same thing, stops being about that after a while, and it didn't control my weight, and it ended up sort of taking over and not controlling. And then when I stopped being bulimic, I actually lost weight because I wasn't binging anymore. What happened to you when you stopped being bulimic in terms of that big fear about gaining weight?
I lost weight. I was very puffy when I look at pictures back in high school, because it was when I was in high school. And I'm like, ooh, my face, like I was chubby. I wasn't like super chubby. I was just like, almost like I was just like ate a lot of salt. Like I consistently ate a lot of salt. That's what I looked like. Like I was just puffy. And
a lot of inflammation from the trauma that you were putting your body through.
Yeah. So I did. I lost weight, and my body kind of evened out, and it took a while for, I think, my body to trust that I was going to nourish it and not abuse it. So when I was 21, I was still kind of starving myself. I was on a very low carb diet, and I was eating a lot of cheese, a lot of chicken, and I just thought, because that's so mainstream to how to lose weight, that's what I did. And I was working out really, really, really hard and many hours a day. And I've always been, I shouldn't have called myself chubby, because I've never been chubby or overweight. I always just wanted to be super skinny, and that's not my body type. And I have learned to really love and embrace my body and find my body beautiful and sexy and desirable, and be confident in my own skin. But that took a long time too, and to be the best version of me that I can be, rather than I want to be skinny or somebody else and compare myself.
So you felt better about your body.
Yes.
And you had a strong Christian faith and a self-confidence about you when you moved out here.
Yes. So then I started developing acne because I was on this low carb diet, and I was on antibiotics for a year. I was getting injections in my face. Like the dermatologist was sticking needles in my face to try to stop the inflammation with cortisone. And I was like, what is happening? This is a nightmare. I would stay up nights crying my eyes out. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't even that bad. It was just bad for me because of what I did for work.
You're on a low carb diet, which meant a high animal protein diet? Because that...
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't know about
a lot of hormones coming in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So, and it was hormonal acne, like on my jawline.
Right.
So it was definitely the dairy. And the meat too. So I started watching documentaries. I started watching Forks Over Knives and What the Health and Fat, Sick, Nearly Dead and King Corn and just all the incredible documentaries on Netflix. And my mind was blown. I could not believe the lies And I felt like I had finally discovered the truth, kind of like becoming a Christian. Like I had finally been privy to knowledge that was going to heal me. And I stopped the antibiotics and I did raw for a really long time, raw veganism for a really long time. But I was eating a lot of nuts, and that wasn't really good for my skin either. So it took a long time for me to get my skin back to normal. And I still break out from time to time because skin is skin. But it really, truly healed my body from the inside out. And then I became obsessed with knowing the truth. And it's just a continual journey of what's the best for this and how much of this should I eat. And on top of that, it set me free from my eating disorder because I could be in incredible shape, feel good mentally, feel good spiritually, feel good physically, look great physically. My skin got better. My body weight evened out. I didn't have to work out crazy hours to be in great shape. And I mean, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I found that although I was much, much, much better for my eating disorder when I moved over to veganism, I still say there's an aspect of it that sets me free to this day from the confines of being so obsessed with, I guess, how I look or acting out on any type of pain that I might have, which would then mean starving myself. Because veganism took the focus off of me and onto the compassion and love that I was putting out in the world. And that is a transformative experience that you cannot have with any other, quote, diet.
Yeah, it's so true. So then I watched Earthlings, and I was horrified. And I only could watch 10 minutes of it because I was so triggered by what was being done to innocent animals that I could not help. I was screaming, I was shaking, I was
triggered from your own life.
Oh yeah. So for me to see any violence to any person, a child, an animal, any sort of innocence, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. God help the person who hits a child in front of me. Like I cannot deal with it. And to do such horrific acts to the most pure and the most innocent, love-filled beings of on this planet my mind was just, I was so heartbroken and so I will never, ever, 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 ever. At that moment, I said, I will never, ever allow this. I will never eat meat or dairy or any sort of animal product ever again. I'll never wear leather. It was just...
What was it that you saw? Can you tell our audience, because a lot of people might not have seen the documentary Earthlings.
Or are scared to jump into it. You did better than I made it 6 minutes. So.
Oh my goodness. So I saw a dog being thrown. Do we want to talk about this?
Yeah, I think just give us an idea of what you saw so people have an idea of what goes on too.
And what you're talking about. You say I saw Earthlings.
Yeah, so I saw a dog being thrown into the back end of a garbage truck where they get smashed, and that was the moment where I had to shut it off.
Is this for food?
I don't know what it was for. I think it was just a montage of what people do to animals. And I saw what happens to pigs in every single day in farms to make pork or bacon, and they get shot in the head, and they get these innocent babies. They're 6 months old, and they get beaten. They don't have water. For days in these trucks, and to beat anybody or anything is. Or they are ones, I should say, someone, to beat someone, because they're not something, to beat someone who is so innocent. It's like, I was talking to my father the other day, and he was like, it's like abusing an autistic child when you abuse an animal, because they are so innocent and so full of love and so pure that it doesn't even compare to a human, in my opinion, because humans can fight back, and we can seek help. Abuse to a human is inexcusable, of course, but to do it to an animal that depends on us to take care of it, depends on us, and
we're the one that brought him here in the first place. We bred him to kill him.
Right.
Like just that alone is mind bender.
I know. so those are some of the things that I remember seeing. I more so remember my reaction to it. I was sickened, and I was in shock, and I was very, very, very triggered and traumatized from it. But I'm glad I watched it because it led me to activism, and it led me to, because I'm the type of person where I can't see something and just let it go and just not care about it ever again. I'm the type of person that I go after what I believe in 110%. You know that.
Smiling over here.
So
one of your many beautiful attributes.
So when was this? How long
Thank
ago
you.
that you became vegan and then saw Earthlings?
I became vegan probably. I saw all these documentaries before I saw Earthlings, and then when I saw Earthlings, I was like, like my whole life is being changed now. So I think I saw these documentaries when I was like 23. I saw Earthlings maybe when I was 24, and so it was kind of a slow transition until I saw Earthlings, and I was like, that's it.
So you became vegan for your health,
Yes.
and for your physical,
Yep.
how you felt and how you looked.
Yep.
And now you're an ethical vegan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll stay vegan for the rest of my life because of the animals.
Can we talk about the cross section between veganism and Christianity?
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, for you, for what that means, why, if you are a Christian, you would be vegan, if that is something that you feel strongly about.
I do.
Me too.
First of all, I believe that Jesus is all-encompassing love. People sought him out to touch his clothing, and they were healed. I mean, I don't know if you've ever felt a strong presence of a person that you came in contact in your life. I mean, I felt some serious presence with very deep people and very wise people. Like, I can feel it from them. Like, whoa, you are a powerhouse of a presence. And I feel like that wouldn't even compare to Jesus's presence.
Sure.
And to be healed from his clothing, I mean, that's serious power and serious presence. And so I believe that he loved people and the Father's creations. I believe that Jesus was God, and those are my beliefs. His creations, I don't think he would ever, ever, ever be okay with us hurting the most innocent of his creations. I can't see it. I can't make sense out of that. And there's no place in the Bible where it says that he ate any animal. It says that he created fish, but he's God. What if he created the flesh of fish that were already dead to feed people? That doesn't mean that he had to take the fish's lives. In Genesis, he gave us a raw vegan diet in paradise, in perfection. That's what we're supposed to be eating. In the desert with the Israelites, I was just rereading the Old Testament recently, and the Israelites were walking for 40 years in the desert, and they had livestock with them. They had animals, and this one group decided to eat the livestock. They were supposed to eat the manna that God gave them, which was coriander seed, so it was plants, and they lived off of plants for 40 years, and one group ate the animals, and they got a plague, and they died. So there's a lot of evidence, and I just recently got this book, Why Every Christian Should Be Vegan, and I highly recommend that people get it.
Who wrote that?
I don't know.
Newer, huh?
I think so.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I haven't read it yet, but I've heard really great things about it, and I think that every Christian should be a vegan because it's the most compassionate, love-filled life that one can live.
Do you go to church now, and do you talk to your pastor about that? Because most Christians are not vegan.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's like we're saving our souls but killing our bodies, and we're the temple of the Holy Spirit, and we should honor our bodies, because when you start to, everything's one. It's not like, okay, my hand is over there and it's not somehow connected to my shoulder, and my shoulder is not somehow connected to my neck. My head's not somehow connected to my neck, and we're all one. So our emotions depend on what we're putting into our body. If we want to feel our best emotionally, spiritually, I feel more connected to God now that I've become a vegan because I feel cleaner. So if a Christian really truly wants to honor a gift of the body, the temple of the Holy Spirit, then we should be putting in the right food that God gave us.
So not only for health, but also for nonviolence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just, this really just boils it down to one sentence. But for me, if my God is the Prince of Peace,
right.
I don't eat animals.
Exactly.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah. Because it's the most peaceful way to live. How can you kill? The fifth commandment, thou shalt not kill, period. Some people say thou shalt not kill people, but that's not what it is. It's thou shalt not kill, period.
Have you spoken to other Christians who are not vegan, and how do they react? How is it like anybody who reacts who's not vegan?
Yeah.
With a little bit of defensiveness and
of course.
Yeah.
But I'm the type of person where, listen, if I haven't done it, I've seen it. Like I don't judge people, and how can we? We can only guide people. We can only love people, and that's really the only way to change a person's heart, is to love them into it. If somebody was like, you have to be a Christian because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and nobody gets to the Father but like, I'd be like, you're nuts.
And we've all been there, and
right.
we feel like those people. You're so right. Yeah. Remember.
So you can't do that with veganism. Like you're killing animals. You're not peaceful. You're not living the way God. And you can't, even though, and it's kind of like that. You can't. Sometimes I have days where I'm like, I have no patience for you. Stop killing animals.
That's why we have to stay in our house on those days.
Exactly.
Or not.
I know, and get arrested.
Peacefully. Can we talk about Hollywood a little bit?
Let's do it.
Because you're an actress, and you've worked a lot, and you also are show up on the red carpet a lot, and get photographed. And I'm wondering, how is it choosing your outfits and keeping veganism in mind, both on the red carpet and when you are working?
Yeah. So I look a lot. It takes a while. As you know, the entertainment industry is a lot of smoke and mirrors, and it's a lot of image, and a lot of, I'm going to look glamorous and make this look easy. And it's very, very, very difficult. And it's possible because people have done it. You've done it. We're doing it. But it's very challenging. So
to do it as a vegan, or just to do it in general?
To do it in general.
You're talking about being fashionable I don't do that. I've just, I use my veganism as an excuse not to be stylish. But you and Dotsie have proven me that it's not hard. You can do it.
Yeah, you can do it. It takes effort.
It takes more thought.
Yeah, just like I've traveled all around the world, and I've been on a whole food, organic, plant-based diet. And I've traveled all around the world, to Africa, to France. You do it. If you want to be with a person, you make time for them, right? If you want to do something in your life, you prioritize it. So not hurting animals is a priority to me. Being healthy is a priority to me. So I make the time and I put in the effort to do that.
So how do you do that? Because I'm doing a film next month, and for the first time in 30 years, the production company will not allow me to have a clause that says that they can only use cruelty-free makeup on me. I've never had a film say no, except for this one. And
what?
I told my agent, I'll just bring my own makeup.
That's what I do.
And on the set, they won't put cruel makeup on me because they'll be shamed anyway. They don't want to do that. But so usually it's a negotiation a lot of times.
Yeah.
And most of the time they don't put me in silk. I mean, I don't think I've put me in silk forever, but sometimes there might be wool.
Yeah.
Usually if I tell the wardrobe I don't want wool, silk, or leather, they're actually happy because it's cheaper.
Exactly.
So they're very happy. But sometimes it probably gets in there. So as long as it doesn't scream, hey, I'm from an animal,
right?
I will, if they insist on it, wear something, not leather, but wool or silk. Yeah. I don't know why I draw the line there, but I do, even though in real life I don't. So how does that go for you?
Yeah, and how do you find this stuff? I mean, I want to help people out there that are wanting the cool hot dress and the great shoes, and so definitely get into where you find this stuff and how you access it, and if there's websites or
okay, so what I'll do for, let's say a premiere comes up. Or even an event, I shop at this one particular store where the worker that helps me out all the time, I tell her, I'm a pain in her butt. I'm like, let me see the tag. It has silk. And she's like, oh yeah, because she knows me by now. And I'm like, I just can't. It's so stunningly beautiful, but I can't. And I put it back. Sometimes I'm sure there was a dress or a pair of pants that may have had like a tiny bit of silk in it that I had no idea about, or that wasn't on the tag. Like, I'm sure, just like when you go out to eat, you can't, like, I don't eat oil. Sometimes there's oil in my food. Like, there's only you can only do as much as you possibly can do.
We just do our best. We just do our best.
Absolutely.
Well, we're talking about silk. Just peel back the layers on that, because some people are like, what? That's going too far, you guys. What's wrong with silk? They
boil the cocoon alive because to separate the silk from the worm. And
so no wearing silk because they boil animals alive. That sounds horrible.
Insects,
okay.
Yeah. And for wool, same. It's not that they kill the sheep, but the sheep are exploited. It's their wool for them. And even though, same reason we don't drink dairy or, eat cheese is because it's not ours to eat and consume.
I agree. So I try my best to be perfect, but this world is not perfect. But I do try my best.
But it's hard to go to designers unless and not get silk or wool. It's harder. But I don't shop with designers. I go to the cheapest places.
Self-Portrait. Self-Portrait is a high-end designer that I have checked the tags on every single dress that I've bought from them, and they do not use silk. So I don't know if they're a cruelty-free company. I haven't looked into it, but Self-Portrait, every single dress that I've bought from them, they don't use animal products. So they're a company that I love. And then I'll look for like recycled fashion, literally like high-end fashion that's designer recycled. I don't know. I'm blanking on the name right now. But there are things out there like beaded dresses usually are cruelty-free.
Will you wear something that's vintage that has animals in it? Because some people do.
I haven't, but I would have to think about that. Yeah. I might. It depends. Like fur, I don't think I could. I think I would want to throw up.
Well, the message, you're sending a message if you're wearing fur, but if it's something that no one can really tell, but it hasn't contributed because it's already been used, I think it's very individual. Yeah. I'm unable to do that, but
maybe on set, like if somebody told me that it was recycled and it's old and we didn't, maybe if it was like a costume, but I don't think I would purchase anything from like a vintage shop or, I don't know. I've thought about that, and I would really have to be approached with it and take my time and think about it and come to a conclusion.
So do you wear leather if the character's shoes, if they give you shoes that are leather, will you wear them? Or
I have on set. Yeah. Like on Broken, our shoes were leather.
Yeah, because
but
they were vintage, so they didn't have plastic shoes back.
Yeah. What about your makeup? Where do you get your makeup?
I love my makeup brand. It's called 100% Pure. And it's fruit-based makeup. And I actually have worn it for the last, I want to say 5 or 6 years since I've been vegan and discovered it. And it's mostly organic. They don't use pesticides in it either. And they have a wide variety of foundations and sunscreens and tinted moisturizers, mascara, eyeliner. They have eyeshadow. It's a beautiful high-end line. And I wear it for all my photo shoots. Every single set that I'm on, all my red carpet events. I actually do most of my own makeup for red carpet events. And then when I go to set, I usually, because they might say no, I just show up and I'm like, I did my foundation. I hope that's okay. And nobody has ever asked me to take my foundation off. They just add contour and eyeliner and mascara and my eyebrows and everything. So I get away with it. And I just bring it.
Nice work.
Yeah.
I remember I read you saying this and I asked you about it. You said that your experience at Cannes, which was last year, when was your first red carpet experience at that film festival?
I think I went 3 years in a row.
Okay.
And the first one was in 2016, maybe 2015 or 2016.
Yeah. You described it as like what you would think it might be, and almost like an outer body experience. Yeah. Tell us about that.
So I feel like, Alexandra, have you ever been to the Cannes Film Festival?
No, I have not. No.
Okay, I really hope you go one day because it's really fun. Like both of you should go.
Red carpet events already make me nervous. Cannes would make me too much.
It's like, so you think of like, the carpet has the photographers on both sides at the festival. So you always get a photo with photographers in back of you. So there's no other red carpet like that. I don't think. I mean, maybe at the Met Gala, but it's not quite like the Cannes Film Festival. So I went there, and it was like, this is so silly because I feel like there's so much more important things in the world, but it was really fun, and I think people like to hear fun things.
We talked about some dark stuff.
Yeah.
So do it.
So I went there, and I have these moments in my life where I'm like, Gianna, you are literally homeless in the ghetto, sleeping with your phone under your pillow and your knife nearby. And now you're in France.
This gorgeous dress. The picture I saw, you just looked gorgeous on the red carpet with hundreds of photographers taking your picture.
Yeah, it's like, okay, God, thank you. I really appreciate this. And I will never, ever, ever take goodness for granted. So it was one of those moments where it was as cool as you imagined it to be. And I feel like there's very few moments in life. It totally surpassed the expectations. I was like, this is so cool. And then I ended up in Vogue, Best Dressed. It was so fun.
So cool. I just got chills. I know that's such a girly thing, but I just got chills. But that's good that vegans can also have fun. We're not all
exactly
gloom
exactly
and, and
exactly
wearing
exactly
unattractive sandals.
Exactly.
So. I saw you on Jane Unchained.
Yes.
Her lunch break live.
Yes.
And you were great. Not only did you do this amazing demonstration of your aerial skills, which is so sensual and beautiful and powerful.
Thank you.
Wow. Everybody needs to go to YouTube and look at you do that. But also, you just whipped up some oatmeal banana cookies and some hummus, I think.
Yes.
And you made it look so easy. Are you great in the kitchen? And can you give us like one recipe that people just could maybe do? People like I who don't like to cook might be able to just whip out.
I don't like to cook either. But my love, he's a chef. So I'm like, yes, thank God. Yes, thank God you gave me a chef husband. And he's whole food plant-based too. So being whole food plant-based, I feel like a lot of people are like, oh boy, well, I'll at least go vegan. Like, can I have the Oreos and the ice cream? Like, can I still? But I think whole food plant-based is really, if we really want to be the healthiest versions of ourselves, I think eating food in its whole form there's no other diet that prevents and reverses heart disease. Heart disease is our number one killer over suicide, over guns, cancer, everything's number one. So the only diet, the keto diet, hasn't been shown to reverse heart disease. The only diet that has been shown to reverse our number one killer is a whole food plant-based diet. So if it reverses heart disease, then why shouldn't everybody be eating it? Because our bodies are designed to heal themselves. I feel like that's God's grace saying, now you're doing the right thing. Let's get back on track. It's miraculous what our bodies are designed to do and how they heal themselves. So I find that to be very powerful. So I adopted that way of eating and living. So my favorite snack, quote unquote, even though it's not really a snack, it's just oatmeal and bananas. So I get really ripe bananas, like brown spotty bananas, where you would be like, ew, let's throw it away. So I get that. I get about 2 or 3, and I mash them up with some quick cooking oats, and I probably use about 2 or 3 cups of oats, and I mash them into, you can play around with the recipe, and I mash them into like a cookie dough consistency. And then I throw in some dates, maybe some cinnamon. You can throw in some peanut butter or cacao or carob. And then you put them on some parchment paper and pop them in the oven. And for about, 10 minutes, and you have cookies.
At what temp?
Oh, I have a Celsius oven, so I do 165 Celsius. I think that's maybe somewhere around like 350 maybe 375. Okay. Play with it, and then check on them.
Well, it's only appropriate that we end this interview on love, because
I know.
Gianna is that's what you said in the beginning was so important in life.
Yeah.
The most important thing.
Yeah.
And love and be loved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you for being on our show and sharing so honestly your journey.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving a safe space for me to do that. And thank you all of the listeners who listened and tuned in and gave me a safe space to share and hopefully inspire and encourage.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good, please visit us at switch4good.org for loads of info. And you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to Switch for Good. This is the future.